The harvest that wouldn't die. You ever drive past one of those small, middle of nowhere towns and think, who actually lives here? That was me, just passing through. A tired journalist chasing ghost stories for clicks. The town was called Ashcroft Hollow. Population 612. Sign at the edge of town read, "Welcome to the home of the eternal harvest." Cornfields as far as the eye could see. Golden, perfect, too perfect. I stopped for gas, and the attendant, a thin man with eyes like hollow pits, asked me, "You here for the harvest?" I laughed it off, said I was just passing through. He didn't laugh. That's when I noticed. Every porch had the same scarecrow. Straw hat, burlap face, stitched smile. And the crows? Not a single one. Not a flutter, not a sound. The air felt thick, like the world was holding its breath. Even the radio cut out halfway through a song, replaced by a whispering static that almost sounded like breathing. I told myself it was fatigue. Long drive, too much coffee, too little sleep. But when I pulled into the single motel on Main Street, I caught sight of something in the rearview mirror. A figure, standing at the edge of the cornfield. Still, watching. Head tilted just enough to make your spine tighten. The lights flickered as I parked, and for a second, just one heart-stopping second, I could swear that every scarecrow on every porch had turned its head toward me. The next morning, I told myself I'd leave before sunset, but Ashcroft Hollow had other plans, because in this town, the harvest never ended. It was alive, and it was waiting for me. I booked a room at the Harvest Motel, an old two-story place that smelled like fertilizer and bleach, the kind of scent that seeps into your clothes and clings to your skin. The owner, sweet old lady named Mavis, warned me not to go into the fields after dark. "They don't like visitors," she said, eyes darting toward the window like something might be looking back. I thought she meant coyotes. But that night, lying in the stiff motel bed, I heard it again, whispers, soft, dry, rustling through the corn, like 1,000 voices speaking through hollow stalks. Then came the music, a fiddle, mournful and sharp, threading through the night air like a blade, and voices, chanting. Low, rhythmic, ancient. I couldn't make out the words, but I felt them, deep in my chest, vibrating against my ribs. By morning, the town was alive with motion. Men and women dragging long tables into the square, stringing up garlands made of corn husks and bones, polished bones. Human, if you looked close enough. They called it the night of the reaping. When I asked what it meant, they smiled. All of them. The same smile. "It keeps the harvest alive," they said. That phrase kept echoing in my head as I followed the main road out toward the fields, notebook in hand, camera around my neck. The closer I got, the colder it felt. The sun was out, but it didn't seem to reach the ground anymore. Then I saw them. Rows of scarecrows, hundreds of them, each one identical, each one turned slightly toward the path as if aware of me. One had something strange tied around its neck, a key, old brass, dark with age. I reached out to take it, and that's when the wind stopped. Dead still. The corn froze, the entire field listening. Somewhere behind me, I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, crunching the dry soil. I spun around, nothing there. But when I turned back to the scarecrow, its head had tilted, just a fraction, and the stitched smile seemed wider. That night, Mavis slipped a folded note under my door. One sentence: "Leave before the harvest begins, or you'll feed it." When night fell, the air turned thick as tar. Even the moon looked afraid, hiding behind clouds that crawled across the sky like bruises. I followed them, the whole damn town, into the fields. Lanterns swayed in their hands, 100 small suns weaving through the corn. The stalks brushed against my shoulders as I moved, whispering secrets I didn't want to hear. And then I saw it. In the heart of the field stood a scarecrow taller than any I'd ever seen, 10 feet of black burlap and bone. Its face wasn't stitched, it was carved. Carved from flesh that had dried and cracked like old wood. Eyes glowing red as smoldering coals. The chanting began, low, thunderous, a heartbeat made of voices. The rhythm crawled into my skull, wrapped around my thoughts, dragged me toward that monstrous figure. Mavis stepped forward, the flickering light painting her wrinkles in fire. She held a sickle, gleaming like a crescent moon dipped in blood. Her voice broke through the chant, steady and cold. Outsiders make the best offering, fresh blood for the soil. The crowd turned toward me as one. Dozens of faces lit from below, eyes black and glassy, smiles fixed and unnatural. I stumbled back, tripping over roots that shouldn't have been there, roots that moved. The earth beneath me began to breathe. The ground swelled and sank, pulsing like the chest of something sleeping just below the surface. Then, hands. Skeletal, filthy hands thrust from the dirt, clutching my ankles with a strength that burned. I kicked, screamed, tore free, but more came. Dozens, grabbing, dragging, pulling me toward the center. And in that instant, I understood. The corn didn't grow from the earth, it grew from us. From bones, blood, and everything left behind after the reaping. Each season, another offering. Another life fed to the roots. Mavis raised the sickle. Be grateful, she hissed. You'll never leave Ashcroft Hollow, you'll become it. I reached for the scarecrow's towering form, ripped the brass key from its neck, and jammed it into the hollow where its heart should have been. The field screamed. The lantern shattered. The townsfolk convulsed. And the scarecrow, God help me, it moved. I don't remember how I escaped. My mind's a film strip of missing frames, black gaps filled with screaming wind and the sound of something tearing. One moment, the scarecrow's burning eyes were sinking into me, reaching with arms made of roots and bone. The next, I was running, tripping, bleeding, crashing through the rows. The corn lashed at my face, drawing thin, stinging lines. I could still hear them behind me. Mavis, the chanting crowd, their voices collapsing into a single unholy wail. Then silence. When I looked back, the field was empty. No fire, no bodies, no light. Just rows of gold swaying gently in the pre-dawn wind, like nothing had ever happened. By the time I stumbled into town, my legs barely carried me. The square was deserted. Tables overturned, food half-eaten, garlands fluttering in the breeze. Every door stood wide open. Inside each home, nothing. Not a sound. Not a soul. It was as if Ashcroft Hollow had inhaled me, then exhaled everyone else. I made it to my car just as the sun cracked over the horizon. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the key. The engine coughed to life and I drove, fast, blind, until the endless corn gave way to asphalt and power lines. I didn't stop until I hit a gas station outside of Kepler County. I got out, shaking, filthy, still smelling of rot and soil. The attendant looked at me like I'd crawled out of a grave. And that's when I saw it, on the back seat. A single ear of corn, fresh, dew still clinging to the husk, too fresh for any farm around here. I picked it up, hands trembling. Carved into the golden kernels, rough and jagged, were words that made my stomach drop. The harvest remembers. I threw it onto the pavement. But before I turned away, I swore I saw the husk shift. Just slightly, like it was breathing. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the whisper of the cornfield again. Soft, steady, patient, waiting. Because in Ashcroft Hollow, the harvest never ends. It's been 3 months. 3 months since I fled Ashcroft Hollow, since I left that cursed stretch of land smothered in gold and silence. But at night, when the wind slips under the door and the walls creak like old wood, I still hear it. The rustle of corn, the whisper of roots moving beneath the soil. I told myself it was trauma, residual fear, my mind trying to stitch sanity back together after what it saw. But then the evidence started to grow. It began with the smell, sweet and damp, like summer rot. Then tiny green shoots appeared along my fence, poking through cracks in the pavement. Perfect rows. Too perfect. I dug one up. The root was wet and pulsing, like it was bleeding. I burned it. Thought that would be the end. But this morning I woke to find stalks towering against my window, blocking out the light. Each one swayed, though there was no wind. And in their dry, golden leaves, I could hear a faint whisper, familiar, drawling. Mavis, she was saying my name. I haven't slept in days. My computer freezes every time I try to type the story. The files twist into nonsense symbols. Photos dissolve into static, but the title always remains, burned into the screen like a brand. The Harvest Remembers. I think I understand now. Ashcroft Hollow doesn't exist on any map because it doesn't stay in one place. It travels with whoever survives it. It plants itself in their lives, their homes, their dreams, and now it's here. Maybe you can hear it too. That soft, dry rustle behind you. The faint scraping sound against your floorboards. Don't look. Don't move. Just listen. Because once you've heard the harvest, it's already taken root. It's closer than you think. If you enjoyed this story and want more tales like The Harvest That Wouldn't Die, make sure to like this video. It really helps the channel grow and brings these dark stories to more listeners like you. Subscribe for daily horror storytelling and share this video with someone who loves a good scare. Thanks for watching, and listening. There's another story waiting for you on your screen right now. Until tomorrow, keep your lights on. The well beneath the roots. You ever dig something up you wish you hadn't? Yeah, that's how it started for me. I grew up in a town so small you could sneeze and hit 3 people who'd ask if you were dying. Milford, Maine. 1 grocery store, 2 bars, and a forest that everyone swore was haunted, but nobody ever left town to prove it. I wasn't anybody special. Just Mark, 35, divorced, working maintenance for the high school. My biggest fear? Getting stuck in this town forever. My biggest dream? Leaving before my hairline left first. Then came that dry summer, the kind that makes the dirt crack open like old skin. The air had weight to it, like something waiting to fall. I was out by the oak grove fixing a busted irrigation pipe behind the football field when my shovel hit something hollow. Thunk. Not rock, not pipe, wood. And right there beneath the roots of that giant oak, I found a well. It wasn't like any well I'd seen before. The boards weren't rotted, not even damp like time had never touched them. No rope, no bucket, just a dark mouth breathing up cold air. And when I leaned close, I swear I heard something whisper my name. Faint, like someone calling from the bottom. I looked around, but the field was empty. The cicadas had gone quiet. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. Nobody in Milford remembered there ever being a well there. I asked around that night at Murphy's bar, old-timers, drunks, the kind of people who know every ghost story this town ever coughed up. They just blinked, shook their heads, told me maybe I was working too hard. Beat. That's when I should have stopped digging. I came back after midnight. The field was empty, the air so still it felt like the whole town had fallen asleep holding its breath. The moon hung low, silver and swollen, casting long, uneasy shadows across the grass. The oak loomed over me, its branches clutching the stars like it didn't want to let them go. The well waited beneath it, patient, hungry. I tied the rope to a root thick as my arm, looped the other end around my waist, and lowered the flashlight. The beam didn't hit bottom. It just disappeared into black. I should have left it there, gone home. But my hands were already on the rope, and before I could think twice, I was climbing down. The air grew colder, wetter. My breath fogged in front of me. The stone walls were slick, crawling with moss that pulsed faintly under the light. I felt movement under my boots, not like water, like something shifting just out of sight. Halfway down, the rope trembled. Not from me, from below. I froze. My flashlight flickered once, twice, then died. I swear I heard breathing, slow, steady, inches from my face. I fumbled for my lighter, the tiny flame snapping to life. That's when I saw it. Carvings, thousands of them. Names etched into the stones, layer after layer. Some so old they were barely scratches, others sharp, fresh. And one, right there at eye level, Mark Hensley. My name. The lighter slipped from my fingers. The sound it made when it hit bottom wasn't a splash. It was a thud. A heavy, wet thud. I climbed out of that well faster than I ever thought I could move. My arms burned, my palms shredded against the rope, but I didn't stop until I hit the surface. The night air hit me like ice. When I turned around, the well was gone. Just dirt. Roots. Like it had never been there. I stood in that field until sunrise, shaking, telling myself I'd imagined it. But the blisters on my hands said otherwise, and when I got home, there was dirt on my floor. Fresh, wet, like someone had tracked it in, someone wearing my boots. I froze. Every nerve in my body screamed to climb, to get out, to run, but I couldn't move. My arms hung limp, useless, as that reflection, that thing wearing my face, stared up at me from the water's surface. Its smile was wrong, too wide, too knowing. Then it spoke. Come home, Mark. The voice wasn't echoing from below. It came from inside me, behind my ribs, inside my skull. A whisper and a command all at once. My flashlight flickered, and for an instant, I saw hands pressing up from the water, pale, bloated things clawing toward the light. The rope shuddered, strands snapping one by one. I started climbing, my boots slipping on the wet stone. Something grabbed my ankle, cold, strong, real. I kicked hard. The sound that came up wasn't human. It was like the well itself groaned in pain. The rope jerked again. My flashlight tumbled into the dark, vanishing into the churning blackness. Faces swam beneath me now, dozens, hundreds, whispering in a low rising chant that made the walls vibrate. Mark, Mark, Mark. Each time they said it, the rope creaked, the roots bulged, the air grew tighter. I hauled myself up, lungs burning, heart hammering so loud it drowned the whispers, until I heard another voice. My own. It was above me. Don't fight it, it said. Calm, familiar. My voice from the lip of the well. You're supposed to be down there. And there, in the moonlight, I saw me, standing at the edge looking down. The same clothes, same torn hands, same terrified face. But his eyes were empty. He reached for the rope, smiled. Trade places, Mark, I screamed. Not out of fear, but fury, and lunged upward, grabbing for the rim. The rope snapped. I slammed into the side, fingers clawing into dirt and roots as the darkness below pulled. My double reached down, head cocked like he was curious what choice I'd make. I didn't think. I grabbed his wrist and yanked with everything I had. We both went tumbling backward. Me gasping on the cold grass, him writhing, hissing, his skin already darkening like ink poured into water. And before I could breathe, before I could scream, he was gone. But the well was still open. I stopped going near the school for a while. Swore I'd quit. Told the principal I was sick. Didn't say with what. My hands were a mess of blisters and half-healed cuts. My nerves wired so tight I jumped every time the pipes hissed. I tried to convince myself it was just a breakdown. Stress, heat stroke, the mind playing tricks. But Milford doesn't let go easy. The next morning, I found muddy footprints outside my trailer. One set, bare feet. They led up to my front door, stopped right at the threshold, and then turned back. Like whoever, whatever it was had thought twice about coming in. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that reflection, that grin. Sometimes when I looked into the bathroom mirror, I thought I caught it again, just for a blink. My face lagging behind, smiling late, watching. I tried to dig up the spot again, went back to the field with a shovel, sweating, trembling. But the ground was solid, untouched. No hole, no roots, no trace that anything had ever been there. The oak grove was gone, but the air still carried that damp, earthy cold, the kind that doesn't belong above ground. The janitor, old man Wilcox, said he'd seen lights out there at night. Flashlights, maybe, he told me. Or fireflies, but bigger. His voice dropped. Heard your name too, Mark. Just thought you were working late. I wanted to tell him to stay away, to burn the whole field down, but I couldn't find the words. Because part of me, the part I didn't want to admit existed, wanted to hear it again. The whisper, the invitation. Every night since I've heard it faintly, beneath the wind and the creak of the trees. It's quieter now, more patient, like it's waiting for me to stop fighting. Sometimes I wonder if I ever really made it out. Maybe I've been talking to you from down there this whole time, clawing at the dark, pretending there's still a sky above me. Because every morning when I wake up, the floor beside my bed is damp, and the dirt smells fresh. I filled in that hollow myself. Took me all night. The shovel bit into the dirt with a sound that felt wrong, like digging through wet cloth. The deeper I went, the colder the air became. I didn't look down, not once. Not after the second time I thought I saw something shift under the soil. I just kept throwing dirt until my arms gave out, until the first gray light of morning crept over the trees. When I finally stopped, the ground was smooth, still. It looked ordinary again, like none of it had ever happened, but the earth had a pulse to it. Slow, patient, almost grateful. I told myself I was done. I buried it, buried him, buried whatever that thing was that wore my face. But that night, when I closed my eyes, I dreamed of roots. They were everywhere, beneath my skin, through my veins, wrapping around my heart like they'd always been there, just waiting for me to notice. Now, weeks have passed. The bruises on my palms have faded. I go to work. I nod at people. I pretend everything's fine. But every time the wind picks up, I smell wet earth. Every time I hear someone call my name, I freeze. Because for half a second, I can't tell if it's coming from in front of me or from beneath me. I used to think curiosity was what got me into this. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was recognition. Like something in that dark knew me long before I was born. Maybe we don't find the things buried under the earth. Maybe they find us. Pause, a long one. So if you ever hear something calling from the dark, don't answer. Because once it knows your name, it doesn't forget. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to The Well Beneath the Roots. If you felt that chill crawl up your spine, hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets more people discover these stories. Don't forget to subscribe for new tales every day and share this one with someone who loves a good scare. There's another story waiting for you on the screen right now. Click it if you dare. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Unless the dark calls first. The Scarecrow's Promise. You ever drive through a small town that feels like it's holding its breath? Yeah, that kind of place. So here's where it starts. Me driving through Derry, Maine, because of course it's Derry, on my way to nowhere in particular. I was chasing quiet, fresh air. I just quit my job at the paper in Boston, and I thought a few weeks in the countryside might straighten out the noise in my head. There was this old farmhouse on the edge of town, white paint peeled to bone, porch sagging like a tired spine. I rented it cheap from a man who looked like he'd been carved from oak and regret. He only said one thing before he handed me the keys: don't touch the Scarecrow. Now, you'd think that'd be a joke, right? A local superstition. But the way he said it, flat, dead serious, made the back of my neck prickle. Out there in the field, beyond the corn, I could just make out its shape. Straw shoulders, a crooked hat, watching me, always watching. The nights were long out there, the kind that pressed down on your chest, heavy with crickets and silence. Every morning, I'd glance out the kitchen window and see that same figure, arms stretched wide like it was waiting for something. But on the third morning, I noticed something strange. Its hat had tilted. Not from the wind, no, the air was still as glass. And when I looked closer, the Scarecrow's head wasn't stuffed with straw anymore. It was wearing something that looked an awful lot like my old Boston Red Sox cap. I laughed it off, of course, told myself I must have imagined it, but deep down I knew that thing in the field wasn't just standing there. It was changing, and worse, it knew my name. I started digging. Town records, old newspapers, the kind of yellowed clippings you can smell through the screen. Turns out, the farm had been empty since 1964, except for a handful of short-term tenants. None of them stayed longer than a month. The last story I found was about a boy, 12 years old, vanished one autumn night. His father claimed he saw something moving in the fields, something that looked like a man made of straw, carrying the boy in its arms. The headline called it The Scarecrow's Promise. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window with a flashlight and a bottle of whiskey, watching the field sway under the moonlight. At around 3 a.m., the wind stopped dead, not a sound. And then, I swear to God, the Scarecrow moved. Just a twitch, a slow tilt of the head, like it knew I was watching. The next morning, I packed my bags. I'd had enough ghost stories for one lifetime. But when I walked outside, every crow in the county seemed to be sitting on the fence posts, lined up like an audience, all staring at me. And the Scarecrow? It wasn't where I'd left it. It was closer, maybe 10 feet from the edge of the corn now. I went out there, stupid as hell, muttering every rational excuse I could think of: kids, wind, animals, whatever. But as I stepped through the rows, I found footprints, bare ones, my size, leading straight from the porch to the field. That's when I heard it, a whisper, not from behind me, from under the ground. You promised. The earth trembled under my boots, soft and breathing, and something tugged at my ankle from below. I stumbled back, heart hammering, but when I looked down, nothing. Just the loose soil shifting like something underneath was waiting to crawl free. By the time I made it back to the porch, the sun was up. The Scarecrow stood perfectly still again, but now there was something new tied around its neck. My old press badge. That's when I knew. Whatever it wanted, whatever promise it thought I'd made, it wasn't finished with me yet. The ground pulsed under my feet like a living thing. The corn bent inward, closing around me, the stalks twisting together like ribs of a cage. The air turned thick, heavy, almost wet, and somewhere beneath it all, I could hear the heartbeat of the soil. I tried to run, but the mud clung to my boots, thick as tar. Then I saw it, hands, straw and dirt, but human, pushing up from the ground, gripping the air, reaching for me. One of them caught my ankle, cold as the grave. I kicked, screamed, stumbled back, flashlight spinning through the dark, and the beam caught the Scarecrow's face. The burlap was gone. In its place was skin, dead, gray skin stretched over straw bones. My face, it smiled, wide and wrong. And then it spoke again, that whisper filling my head like wind through an empty house. You were supposed to take my place. I remembered the old man who rented me the house, the way his hands shook, the way he looked at me, Not as a stranger, but as someone he already knew. He hadn't rented me the house. He'd passed it on. The air split open with the sound of screaming crows. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, exploding from the corn like smoke. The sky went black. Every beat of their wings felt like a warning. I ran for the porch, but the earth gave way beneath me, a sinkhole of rotted roots and bones. I fell, arms flailing, swallowed whole into the cold belly of the field. When I hit bottom, it wasn't soil beneath me. It was burlap, and underneath the burlap, movement. The slow breathing shift of something alive. A dozen hollow faces stared up from the dark, their mouths sewn shut with twine. Tenants, the missing ones. Each of them buried upright, straw in their chests. And above me, silhouetted by the moon, the scarecrow leaned forward, holding out its arms like a father to a child. "Promise kept," it whispered. I screamed until the dirt filled my mouth, until the field swallowed the sound whole. And the last thing I saw was the moonlight catching on straw fingers, sliding the burlap sack over my face. They say nobody's rented the farmhouse since. The listing's still up, sure, but every time someone calls, the line cuts off. The realtor stopped trying after her dog vanished in the corn. But people talk, they always do. Some say they've seen lights flickering in the fields at midnight, moving slow like lanterns carried by unseen hands. Others swear that when the wind shifts, it sounds like a voice humming. A low, steady tune, the kind a father might hum to a child. And me, I don't remember leaving. I remember falling, the dirt swallowing my scream, the cold pressing against my ribs until I couldn't tell where I ended and the soil began. Then nothing. But sometimes, on nights when the moon's high and the wind's still, I catch glimpses, like flashes behind closed eyes, a porch light, a rocking chair. And beyond the window, the field, stretching forever. I feel things now. The weight of the sun on my straw shoulders, the way the crows settle into my arms like I'm part of the landscape. The roots in my legs go deep, so deep I can taste the worms. And the strangest part? I'm not angry. There's a calm to it, a purpose. The same one that farmer felt when he first made the promise to protect the field, to keep it fed, to make sure the harvest never dies. So when travelers pass through dairy and stop for gas, they sometimes notice that scarecrow on the hill. They say it looks aware, like it's watching the road, counting who comes and who goes. And if they linger too long, if they stare back just a little too hard, the crows start to gather, a whole murder of them, waiting, because a promise was made once upon a time, and promises out here don't break, they root. Some nights when the wind blows through the corn, the field breathes, and if you're quiet, if you listen close, you'll hear a voice that sounds almost human, whispering through the stalks. I'll keep my promise. The seasons pass differently when you're part of the land. I've watched snow fall and melt into my chest, felt the first green blades push through the frost, brushing against my boots like they still remember who I was. Sometimes when the moon is kind, I almost do too. I remember the hum of the refrigerator, the scratch of pen on paper, the smell of ink and cheap coffee from those late nights at the paper in Boston. Now all I smell is the rot of harvest, the sweet, heavy scent of things meant to die and don't. Every autumn, someone new shows up, always looking for quiet, for healing. They come with suitcases, fresh plans, broken hearts, the kind of people who think solitude will fix them. It never does. They see me from the window and wave like I'm decoration. By the third night, they stop waving. I try to warn them. I think I do. The wind moves through me like words, the corn whispering in my place. But they never hear it right. They always hear what they want to. And by the time the field decides, it's too late. Because the promise wasn't just mine. It's theirs now too. That's the curse. It doesn't take you all at once. It lets you stay, roots you to the same soil you were running from, until one morning, someone else rents the farmhouse, and you're the one standing out here, watching, waiting, remembering what it was like to breathe. So if you ever find yourself driving through Derry, Maine, and you pass a field with a single scarecrow standing in the mist, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't stare. Because if it tilts its head at you, it's already too late. Sometimes when the wind dies, you'll hear a whisper riding through the corn. Soft, low, almost tender. I'll keep my promise. Pause. The sound of wind howling faintly. Thanks for listening, friend. If this story got under your skin, even just a little, Make sure to like this video so more people find it. Subscribe for daily stories that'll keep you up at night. Share it with someone who loves a good scare. And hey, there's another story waiting on your screen right now. Go ahead, click it. I'll see you tomorrow. Hollow hooves. You ever notice how some towns just sound empty? Like the silence isn't peace, it's waiting. That's how I describe Hollow Creek, Maine. Population, barely breathing. I grew up there. Worked the night shift at Danner's Feed and Supply, the only place in 50 miles that sold hay, salt blocks, and secondhand saddles. And me? I wasn't anybody special. Just a guy trying to keep the lights on and the past shut up. Hollow Creek's the kind of place where people talk quiet and I move slower and look over their shoulders a little too often, as if the shadows might be listening. The air's thick with pine sap and old stories. You can smell the lake from town, though no one swims there anymore. Not since the water went black that one summer. But every night around closing time, I'd hear it. Clip, clop, clip, clop. Hooves, slow, heavy, hollow. The strange part? There hasn't been a horse in Hollow Creek for 15 years. Not since the barn fire. I used to laugh it off. Tell myself it was pipes or wind or the hum of my tired brain. But you can't mistake that rhythm, that echo that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere. Once I followed it to the back door, pressed my face to the glass. The parking lot was empty, black as pitch, only the wind moving through the weeds. But the sound kept going, right up behind me. I turned, heart hammering, and for half a second I swore I saw it, a shape in the reflection. The first time I heard it, I figured it was the wind kicking something loose. Second time, I went outside with a flashlight, nothing but fog and frost biting my breath. By the fifth night, I stopped pretending it wasn't real. It wasn't just the sound. It was the smell, that burnt coppery tang of old ash and rain-soaked leather. And the tracks, shallow like hooves pressed into mud that wasn't there. They'd vanish by morning. Always, like the earth refused to remember. I started sleeping less, watching more. My boss said I looked pale, jumpy. He joked about ghosts in the hayloft, and I laughed too, though my laugh came out cracked and small. One night, I followed the sound past the feed store, down to the old Miller barn, the one with the roof half caved and the fire scars crawling up its boards like black veins. The moonlight hung on the metal hinges, and I swear they shivered when I touched them. Inside, the air was thick, heavy. Every creak of the floorboard sounded like breathing, and there it was, carved into a beam above the door, a name scorched deep into the wood. D. Keene, my name. That's when I dropped the flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor and hit something glinting in the corner. A horseshoe, blackened and cracked. Still hot. I grabbed it, burned my palm. The smell of char filled the barn again. Sudden, choking. And in that moment, the world seemed to tilt. Behind me, hooves struck the ground once. Twice. A breath like steam brushed the back of my neck. I ran. Didn't stop running until the town lights came into view. And even then, the echo followed me. Faint, distant, but constant. Mrs. Dalrymple saw me that night, shaking outside the diner. She didn't ask what happened, just poured me coffee and said softly, "You can't outrun what's tied to you, son." I wanted to ask what she meant. Wanted to tell her about the name in the wood, the burning metal, the breath. But all I could do was listen to the faint sound outside the window, clip coming closer. It happened on a Thursday, the kind of night the air feels bruised before the storm even breaks. I was alone at the feed store. The others had gone home early when the clouds rolled in thick and swollen. The radio sputtered out mid-song. The lights flickered twice, then died. Silence. A living kind of silence. The kind that hums against your ribs. And then clip, clop, clip, clop. Right outside the door, I froze. My breath turned to glass in my chest. I went to the window, flashlight trembling in my hand. The fog outside wasn't just hanging. It was moving, curling like it had a pulse. And through it came a shape. A horse, but no horse that should have existed. Its coat shimmered like burnt tar, and its eyes, its eyes burned orange, the way wood glows after it's done screaming. Every step it took made the ground hiss, and the sound, that hollow ring, hit something deep inside my skull. Then I saw the thing on its back, a rider, or what was left of one. Skin gone to ash, bones blackened and half glowing beneath the rot. Its fingers curled around the reins like melted glass. When it lifted its head, I saw what was underneath, me. My own face, blistered, scorched, eyes empty as a grave. It spoke my name, Not the one on my driver's license, my real name. The one my mother used to whisper before she tucked me in, before she and my father screamed in that barn, before the world turned orange, and I learned how fire can erase everything except guilt. That's when it hit me. I lit that match. I started the fire. I killed them. My family, the horse, everything. The rider dismounted, boots hissing in the wet dirt. Each step it took left small rings of fire that sank into the earth like veins. I backed away, hit the feed counter. The smell of hay mixed with smoke and rot. "Come home," it said, voice like coals cracking in a hearth. And for the first time since that night, I didn't run. I stepped forward, and the fog swallowed us both. The next morning, Hollow Creek woke up to the smell of smoke again. The kind that seeps into your skin, stays under your nails, makes every breath taste like the past. The feed store was gone. Nothing left but a skeleton of black beams jutting from a bed of ash. The metal sign out front, Danner's Feed and Supply, hung half melted, swaying in the heat that still shimmered off the wreckage. They found me a mile down the road, barefoot, soot streaked up my arms, clothes stiff with dried rain and blood that wasn't mine. I don't remember walking there. I don't remember anything after stepping into that fog. The sheriff said it was lightning. Everyone nodded. That's what people do in towns like this, pretend stories end where explanations begin. But lightning doesn't leave hoof prints. They were faint, half sunk into the mud along the road. Big, round, and hollow in the middle, like something had pressed through time itself. But by noon, they were gone. The ground smoothed over as if it had decided to forget. Mrs. Dalrymple came by the clinic where they kept me. She brought pie, like she always does when she doesn't know what else to say. Her hand trembled when she set it down. "It's over now," she whispered, but her eyes said she didn't believe it. I tried to tell them what I saw, the horse, the rider, me, but every word turned to smoke before it left my tongue, like something didn't want it spoken aloud. Nights are the worst. The quiet here isn't the kind you rest in. It breathes. When the wind rolls down from the hills, it carries the faintest sound, soft, deliberate, and far too familiar. Clip, clop, clip, clop. I tell myself it's the old boards settling, or my heartbeat echoing wrong in my ears. But sometimes, just as I start to drift towards sleep, I catch the scent again. That faint copper burn of wet ash and horsehide. And then I know the past doesn't vanish, it circles back. And somewhere out there, in the fog that clings to Hollow Creek, something is still walking, looking for me. It's been weeks since Hollow Creek burned itself out of me. I packed what little I had left and drove south until the pine gave way to field, until the fog finally thinned to a shimmer in the rearview mirror. New town, new job, new name. People here smile too easily. They don't ask questions when I flinch at thunder or when I keep the lights on all night. But the quiet here, it's different. Not the kind that waits, the kind that listens. Some nights just before dawn, I hear it again. Faint, distant, impossibly slow. Clip, clop, like it's pacing the edge of town searching for a familiar sin. Once I woke to the smell of smoke, not wood smoke, not from a stove, barn fire smoke. That wet, bitter tang that clings to you even after the washing. And when I looked down, my feet were black with ash, no footprints in the room, no soot on the floor, just the stain on my skin, as if the earth itself had reached up to remind me. I've started talking to it, whispering apologies into the night, to the thing that wears my face and rides the horse I killed. Sometimes the wind answers, sometimes it doesn't. You ever hear hooves in the dark? If you do, don't open the door, because some ghosts aren't coming back for justice. They're coming to finish the ride. And maybe that's what I deserve, to ride until the sound finally stops. So if you're listening to this, if you made it all the way through, thank you for stepping into the dark with me tonight. If you felt the chill of Hollow Creek, or maybe heard a faint echo behind you while listening, do me a favor. Like this video to help it find more curious souls. Subscribe for more stories every single day, and share it with someone who loves the strange, the haunted, the human. There's another story waiting for you right now. It should be showing up on your screen. Go ahead, click it if you dare. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, listen carefully, because the sound never really stops.